back to the question. Why did you first go to Japan?
Okay, I don't
Sorry
know.
to make you repeat that.
That's all right. We'll start again. 81, I've been working in Darwin. It's probably the height of my surfing career as such, and you needed money to surf, so I had a good job up there for a few months and earned quite a lot of money.
What were you doing in Darwin?
I was a concreter, hard to believe, and it was a good job. I stayed in Darwin for an extra few months after it, and then went to Bali. And in Bali, I met a Japanese guy who said he owned some businesses up there and he sponsored surfing and would like to go. And I said, yeah. So later in June, he asked me could I organise a shaper to go up with me. I didn't shape boards then. Thus, after that experience, I learnt quickly. And I went with Al Byrne. I organised Alan Byrne to go up there with myself, and away we went.
Did you know there was waves in Japan at the time?
Yeah, I was told there was waves. I didn't know what quality, so it was good to explore.
It was a complete mystery to you.
Not a complete mystery, but I wanted to have a look for myself. And
were you happy with what you found?
Wasn't a good year. I did 4 months up there. It didn't. They always told me it started in August. The first month or 6 weeks were flat. But it happened in September, October. It started to happen. Actually, we went up earlier than that, June or.
So you were waiting around for quite some time.
Yeah, nearly went mad, but survived it.
Can you describe to the listeners what kinds of waves you can expect to find in Japan?
It's an interesting place. I'd start off with they probably get 50 typhoons a year, if not more. There's a hell of a lot. They number them. A lot of them aren't necessarily waves, but 4 foot to 10 feet.
And they just come and go, don't they? Like the typhoon will hurl in. It'll be like a 2-day swell, and then it'll go flat again.
Yeah, it can even sometimes be a few hours. It just depends how they come in and what direction they take.
And so what did you do in the first year, in the months leading up to the swells? Like, how did you preoccupy yourself?
Oh, that was interesting. I spent a couple of weeks in Osaka and then went off to Shikoku. So I spent then a month or so in Shikoku.
Osaka is the second biggest city. Osaka is the second biggest city of Japan. It's on the south of the main island, and Shikoku is the smallest main island, just below Osaka.
Yeah, so that was an experience. I was a country boy in the big city, so it was quite exciting. Then Shikoku, that was good, very hot. Osaka, it's hot when in the summer. Shikoku, good waves. Kaifu, it is good waves. And there's quite a lot of waves. You need a car. You've got to drive up the coast. I was fortunate. I had a 250 motorbike I could ride. And
how did you get that?
The guy that sponsored me had it and didn't use it. And, yeah, that was fantastic. So I took control of it.
That's great. And what was it like first stepping off the plane with the board bag? Were people kind of shocked to see a surfer there? Because Japan's very famous for snowboarding.
Yeah, interesting. We haven't really gone through this conversation or anything, but Marco did ask me one question, and that was surfers in Japan. And I want to just mention this, that surfing's been there for quite a while because of the Second World War. A lot of the military guys surfed. So in the country, they hadn't seen a lot of surfing, but they'd seen surfboards before. To answer your question.
That's pretty fascinating. So since the 40s and 50s, there's been surfing in Japan.
Yeah, it's been not a lot, but yeah, the military. There's big bases out of Tokyo. There's a big Navy base and an Air Force base.
And what was the quality of surfing when you got there? When you first got there?
The quality of their level. What do you mean?
Yes, what was the standard of surfing?
Not very good. But who am I to say that? But, you know, some of them, there's some good surfers there, there's no doubt, but they're not of a Hawaiian standard or Australian standard or American standard. Now they are, some of them, but then it was a step backwards in a sense. But truly, they only have, even though they have surf all year round, it's really only for about 4 months, August to November, December. So they don't get a lot of chance to they're not doing it every day.
They don't get the practice that people who live in countries with more consistent surf get.
Yeah.
So we'll break for a song.
Thank God for that.
What were you recommending?
Shirley Bassey, the Propeller Heads.
Shirley Bassey, the Propeller
She
Heads.
sings a Propeller Heads song, and I don't know if we can bring that up, but we're going to try.
Oh, here we go. I think we found
That's
it.
the one. Could be a bit raucous, but it's a great song.
Is there any swear words in it?
No, of course not.
Excellent. Here we go. Shirley Bassey and the Propeller Heads. History repeating.
Hello there. Recent developments have seen the jazz world split in two by a new wave of musicians calling themselves disc jockeys. Those in favour describe the phenomena as a fresh rush of blood in the ageing corpse of music. Those against prefer the term emperor's new clothes. Tonight you may judge for yourselves as we bring you the Propeller Heads, who together with the legendary Shirley Bassey play their arrangement, History Repeating.
There's something evolving. Whatever may come, the world keeps revolving. They say the next big thing is here, that the revolution's near. But to me it seems quite clear that it's all just a little bit of history repeating. People shout, a new style is growing, but it don't know if it's coming or going. There is fashion, there is fat, some is good, some is bad, and the joke is rather sad, that it's all just a little bit of history repeating. Woman, man, girl and boy, feel the pain, feel the joy, and sidestep the little bits of history repeating. Just little bits of history repeating.
Well, what can I say? It's different.
And that was Shirley Bassey and the Propellerheads with History Repeating. We're back with Conversations with, and I'm speaking to Thornton Fallander on surfing Japan in the 80s and 90s. So, you went from Osaka, the second biggest city in Japan, to Shikoku, which is one of the most ruralist areas. What was that like?
Yeah, well, that was it was exciting. I mean, there is good waves there. Kaifu is one of the better waves there, and no one surfed it then. I used to surf it a lot by myself. It was interesting when you travel there in those country areas. A lot of the shops, they do not close them. If you want something, you just go and open the door up and leave the money on the counter.
Really? So you could rock up at 2?
2, 3, any time you wanted something, you just opened the door up.
So if you're having a mad party, you could just rock up, drink their beers, leave the yen on the counter and just walk out.
Hard to believe, but that's how it was in the country. I don't believe it'd be like that today, but 10
No,
years
I didn't
ago,
notice that when we
12
were there.
years ago, it was like that in a lot of the country areas. It was amazing. It always struck me how unbelievable is this.
That's fascinating. When I was there in 2012, I did notice if you were just leaving your car for 15 minutes, you could just walk out and leave the keys in the ignition with the engine running. So maybe that's some of the last throes of that, that really tolerant, trusting
Yeah, no, it's amazing.
trait.
Yeah, well, I think the world's changed for them now.
And what else did you do?
Did a lot of. I did do a surf magazine experience or a trip down the coast, down to the bottom islands right next to Okinawa. I went to Tokunoshima, and it was an experience. The waves weren't that good.
What was Tokunoshima like?
It was beach breaks. There was some points they just didn't do it. There was a typhoon came in, and after a week of it, I'd had enough. I got out. I was on the last plane. Thankfully, I was booked on it, and the other guys stayed thinking it'd get good, and I got on the last plane. That was possibly the scariest plane ride I've ever had. It was probably
Really?
100k winds, or they had all the planes tied down by the wings, like cabled down.
In the airport?
And I was scared. We rocked. They said this is the last one leaving, and they were going to stop it, but they went, no, we're going to do it, and it was really gusty and it was scary.
You made it.
Yeah, I'm glad I got out though.
And how do you pronounce it again?
Tokunoshima.
Tokunoshima.
Shima means island, so I don't know what Tokunoshima means, but yeah.
I assume it's a very small island? Because
quite small. You can drive around it. We did it many times.
There we go.
But that was an experience. I then went back to Osaka, flew into Osaka, and that night, that was amazing. I flew over Osaka. I've never seen a city from the air like that. So much light. It was incredible, the energy being burnt. I went over a point there at Wakayama. It looked like Byron backwards. I could see it
Really?
from the air, and went there the next day. The Japanese guys that picked me up, or the sponsor at the time, his guys took me there. I said, I want to go there. I could see it from the air, and I had great waves. It was a
Really?
good left.
So you were flying from this island to Osaka and you saw it as you were landing?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's hard to believe, but I could see it just wrapping around this point. It was pretty good.
Anyone out?
I surfed with 3 guys in the 3 to 5 guys in the morning, and 3 or 4 of us in the afternoon. It got pretty big quick.
That's astounding.
Yeah, no, it was 10 feet in the arbour.
Wow.
It was pretty good.
And what were the best waves you got in Japan?
Best waves I've had was not that trip, but it was a few years later. I once went back, and they brought in the work visas if you were under 30, and I got a work visa, went back and worked, and the guy I was working with took me to Kyushu, and we surfed a wave called Nagata. It's a left-hander. It's changed a little bit now. I've been back there since, but that's a fabulous left. They're the best waves I've had there. They really are good.
In Nagata.
Nagata. They've built a fish factory on the end of it, and I think some of the waves now stopped. It's not as long as it used to be, but it's a lot like Noosa going left.
Really?
Yeah, it's really good, possibly better.
Wow. I'm from Noosa, and Noosa is a killer right. I think some of the longest rights in Australia in a row.
Yeah, this isn't that long, but it's still a couple. It was 200 or 300 metres. 300 metres. Like I said, I think it's not as long now. I went back and saw the factory, and the guy was telling me that it's not the same, but I didn't see it breaking.
When did you go back?
I've been back many times, but that year, I can't even remember.
When was the last time you went back? So
I think 2002.
2002.
I was working there. I was sending surfboards there.
So you were a shaper in Japan?
Yeah, so I'd go back every year. So usually how it worked was you could fly to Japan via Bali and do a stopover on the way there and on the way back. It was actually cheaper to fly via Bali than it was direct, which is amazing. Didn't take long for them to change that, but for quite a few years I did that. So I can't, I have to look up my passport to work out what year. There's a lot of trips I did there.
And were you on the competition circuit there?
Actually, believe it or not, I did do some competitions there, and you had to live there, I forget, for a year, or they kept it was like a closed, like Japan was a closed country. It was closed for surfing. You had to do a year without leaving, and not many people could get visas. I did that, and I could have gone in. I went into one contest. I didn't do so well, and that was in Kyushu.
What do you mean it was a closed country?
Well, you had to, when I say that, I mean, I was talking about old history of Japan, but in their surfing, the new history was it was closed. It wasn't competitive. You had to do a year if you're a foreigner before they'd let you compete in their local contests. I did do that, but then I didn't compete. So it was a bit of a waste of time.
That's all right. But you were doing a lot of the magazine photo shoots.
I did quite a few magazine photo shoots.
Japanese magazine? Or
Japanese, yeah.
Australian,
that was
American?
that first trip I did.
Yeah.
I actually got a front cover on their surf magazine, it's pretty fantastic. It's a good shot. But that's ancient history now. 34 years ago, I don't know. It's a long time ago.
All right. Should we go to another song?
Please, let's do that.
All right. Up next we have Girls on the Avenue by Richard Clapton.
Girls on the avenue, they're trying to get you in, strolling by with a rosebud smile. They're all dressed up to kill, lean on the windowsill, looking your way with eyes of fire. Don't you slip, don't you slip in love with the girls on the avenue. Friday night, see the girls on the avenue. Like a child at big store windows, you feel confused. So many girls on the avenue. Girls on the avenue know how to get you in, casting out signs like tricks from a hat. All the Miss Lonely Hearts, ooh, they look awful hard, and sometimes they seem as fragile as glass. Don't you slip. Don't you slip.